If you want, there is one in the front.
Sí.
Antes de metro.
Did you take dance training?
No.
Because you're very light on your feet.
They dance school.
What do you want?
Sweden.
There's 500 kilometers to Sweden. What? How do you think you can walk to Sweden? Why do you not want to seek asylum in a peaceful country?
That's a good question. We have tourism. But that's one. The salary for the refugees decreased about 50% from 10,000 krona to about 5,000.
What do you do when you become a refugee? You start walking. The city of Calais is located 34 kilometers from the La Manche Channel on the coast of France. At the center of the city, there's a giant refugee camp. The locals call it the jungle because it smells and feels like a zoo. And the refugees also call it that because they have no laws there. Their only goal is to leave France, cross the border, and worm their way into England. 7,000 people live there in despicable hunger, and the violence there is insane. I once saw how a reporter who tried to get himself in got mugged at knife point, and another time I saw how a person almost got beaten to death. I didn't ask what happened. I was too scared. You can only get inside the camp with a special permit, and if something happens to you, inside this no man's land, you're on your own. The jungle is crammed full of tents, ropes with torn laundry hanged between them, and around them are piles of garbage no one ever throws away. Their showers are made out of thin tent sheets and a bucket of cold water. They have no running water there, so the camp always smells from piss and shit. Some of the refugees sleep in the tents, and others in tin huts, but some don't even have that, and they sleep on blankets in the open air. And the French police wants to minimize the population to 1,500 people. So every once in a while, they will storm in with tear gas and clubs and squash the territory. The refugees' response is with violence, riots, burn tires, they improvise explosives and throw back. They have nothing to lose. They've already lost everything. When I was a student at the National College of Art and Design in Dublin, I volunteered in a jungle over the summer. The refugees loved me because I always gave them what they needed. Shoes, mainly. No one has proper shoes there. They are either ripped or too small. They have no water, no soap. Some don't even own a toothbrush. They live a drifter's life, a small bag. Some barely have a plastic bag. Most of the stuff is discarded and they lose some of it on the road. So I thought, what do they really need? How could I help them more? And then I realized, my graduation project. I'll do my graduation project about them. I'll design a bathing kit for them. Yes, a kit that will have everything they need, only small sized. I'm a genius. The kit I made has all the key elements. For example, sanitizing soap, napkins, razors, matches. But the key element is a portable shower. One that you can take on the road with you, really. It's a small plastic bag that can contain up to 10 liters of water. Now, I've designed 3 different kits. One for men, one for women, and one for children. All are really small with easy-to-use inner compartments. Now, this kit cost me to make $6.79. And I plan to sell it to the refugees for just $7.50. Yes, really, really close to the manufacturing cost. Now, the idea behind this business model is that the product itself is really cheap, so the refugees could afford it. And in time, I could develop and manufacture it through third world countries, just like in the clothing industry. These days, I'm trying to raise money to move from the prototype production to the mass production. And it would be great if there was a company who supported me and helped me push this thing forward. So also, I could promote myself as an industrial designer. So if you want to donate, you can find me on my Kickstarter page. A tiny drop is an ocean. I'm John Godfrey, and I thank you for listening. Around the streets of Turkey like a piece of shit. They have this look in their eyes like they don't belong, begging you to save them. I used to be just one like them, so I recognize them in a second. If I Alf El Halab. How's the house back there still standing? All your family is here? At the beginning I was just a connection. Hooking them up with a professional smuggler took commission. I wanted to give my people freedom. They deserve freedom. They are innocent, miserable people spending the rest of their money, but until Europe won't wake up and start it, we will take this money. There is no other chance. I can show you. Only today I received 150 messages from people who made it into Greek. They sent me so many thank yous. You see, families are willing to give up everything in order to get inside of Europe. Whoever sees the smallest chance would grab it with two hands. Because even if he'll die on the way, if he'll get robbed or blackmailed, everything is better than the shit going on back home. I can sell you a passport. Italian, French, British. I can sell you a fake ID, a fake driver license. Now each document like this would cost thousands of euros, but my specialty is to get inside of Europe to Greece, mainly through the Lesbos Island, and that cost 2,000 euros per person. You have children? A 5-year-old takes up place in the boat. He will pay less, but he will still pay. Smuggling by sea can be done in two ways. Rubber boats. They are 9 on 3 meters. They can hold up to 20 people. I put 30. I know it's crowded, but I still do it. We also have another kind of boat. We call them yacht. Because they are made of metal and steel, and there is less chance of drowning. Those yachts comes in 3 sizes. The big one can hold up to 40 people. I push in 80, 90. The middle one can hold up to 30 people. I put in 60, 70. And the small one can hold up to 20 people. 40 is fine with me. I set up one price with the Turk and another one with the refugee. With the Turk, I set up a lower price. Then I make a double profit. You can also close a deal where every 8 passengers is for free. If that happens, that's great, because then I will take all the money to myself. This is our winter price. Rubber boat would be between 5 to 700 grains. Rubber boat with an engine between 12 to 1,500 grains. And the yacht would be between 15 grains to 2,000 euros. And my summer prices rise up in 30%, and I'm doing between 2 to 3 shifts a day. And the minute they head off to sea, only Allah is at their side. But there are other ways to get you inside of Europe, huh? Smuggling by car and then by foot to Germany or Switzerland to the Balkans would be 3,000 euros. A truck to Germany is also 3,000 euros. A truck to Norway is also 300 euros. I just remembered this one time. Friends of mine, they transferred 71 refugees in the back of a truck. They found them dead because the back of the truck had no vents. Amateurs. There is a lack of responsibility in my occupation, you see. If they find them in the Turkish water, they will bring them back to shore, put them in jail for 25 hours and then release them to the nearest bus station. But if they will catch me, I can sit in jail for 30 years and there's a fine of 50,000 euros, and I have a family. My name is Malik El-Bahar, which is the king of sea, or in short, El-Kahel, the uncle. I have 35 people who work for me. They are in charge of putting everyone on the boats, giving them life jackets and waterproof those documents. I have bodyguards. I have lawyers. Sometimes I feel like I am running a company. 366,402 people made it into Greece this past year, and that's a lot of money. I made $2 million this past year. And right now I have 10,000 euros in my back pocket. I never meant to become a smuggler. I'm only 25. My uncle let me into the business. I just didn't want to die. What do you do when you become a refugee? You start walking. You start walking to save your own life. If someone attacked your village, you will run the hell out of there in any way possible. In your family car, in one of your neighbor's trucks. You will sneak onto the first bus out of there, maybe even inside a container. But it doesn't matter what you do. Eventually, everyone ends up at the same place, the border.
Swimming. Correct swimming. Efficient swimming. Competitive swimming. Is very similar to using a paddle of a small boat. Once you push one hand, the other hand is being pushed at the other direction. Obviously, the paddle is one unit. The same in swimming. One hand outside the water with no resistance, as the other hand inside the water trying to overcome resistance, and together they try to create harmony. It was raining like crazy, so they gave us these thin raincoats. It didn't help. I could feel the water running in through my pants, and it felt like I was standing in the puddle. They didn't have any coats. Well, some of the kids had plastic bags over their heads. It doesn't matter how tall they were. They looked at me from below, like a beat-up dog. Brown hair, brown eyes, brown skin, all wearing rags, old sweatpants, all the women working jobs. They were all the same, mumbling in Arabic. And the children, their cries, their yelling, it was so much noise. They came near me. It was too close. I could feel the last wave of refugees that came to our border come close to me. The parliament in Skopje promised they would send 3,500 more police officers to help prevent them from crossing the border. Perhaps they will build a wall. Until that happens, we are one unit and there are thousands of them. Legally, we can't arrest them. We can't even handcuff them. I'm standing with my back to the border in the middle of this shithole, trying to stop them from crossing the border. I have a club in my hand, an AK-47 strapped to my back, and all of a sudden I see this little girl. She was only 4 years old. She had a bow in her hair. I kept looking for that bow. How could she keep that bow among all that chaos? The bow didn't even hold her hair. Half of it was sticking out and hid her face. Why didn't she take it off? Suddenly, one of them grabbed my coat, started screaming and pulling. I don't understand what you want. Why don't you speak Macedonian? Please, sir, get away from me, get back. I don't care what you want. I don't care what you need. But then, more of them came, and the women started waving their hands in the air, and the cries of the children, I felt suffocated. I grabbed my club, and I waved it in the air. Get away from me, I yelled. At one point, I didn't see any police officer. So I waved even harder with the club, and I started beating them. I hit someone in the back. I could feel his spine breaking. Sit down! Sit down right now! You too! I hit someone in the head. If he will bleed, maybe he won't get near me. I hit someone in the face, maybe I broke his jaw. I don't know what happened to me, I was scared. You and your baby, sit down! Sit down right now! You're all playing the needy part. You're all terrorists that came to destroy us, aren't you? Sit down right now! I don't care, in the mud, in the dirt, as long as there's order. I just want order. Might as well, they can die. They can all die! Die!
I realize this is a controversial issue. I really do. Yes, I understand this, and it is hard for me. I thought about this subject over and over and over again. I thought, and then I thought some more. Look, on the one hand, I really want to open the gates, to invite them to my home. But on the other hand, it's important for me to keep my Christian way of life. And I'm sorry, these two for me are contradictions. I am in a constant struggle. I don't know how to bridge between the two. I'm torn. I'm genuinely torn. But I thought about it again today. I went through all the pros and cons, and I've made up my mind. They must be helped. We have to help them. But not here, not inside our home, not inside our borders, not in Canada. That kid that got strangled up with chains by refugees in Toronto, I've seen it with my own eyes on TV. Back at the days, their friends would have arrived at the new countries happy, right? They would get off the plane and immediately started walking at the local market, immersing themselves in culture and community. But the ones that come here now, I don't think they do that. No, they bring their culture here. They don't give it up, and that leads to violence, to vandalism, sexual assault. We bring thousands of people into our home without identifying the ones that are potentially dangerous. And it takes only a few bad apples that will smuggle in here, and the next thing you have is riots. For example, it took only a few of them to take down the World Trade Center in New York. There used to be one army fighting against another with weapons and battlefield, and then there was order, but now it's different. Now, with all the sophisticated weapons we have today, how do you deal with just one bad apple? We are living in a very vulnerable age for us. Yet again, I never lose sight of the fact that we are talking about people who need food, shelter, and medicine. And that is why I call all the countries in their area to join forces and take responsibility over the brothers. This way, they could stay in the familiar habitat with the same cultural costume, with the same weather conditions, and we and the rest of the Western world would be very happy to donate, to give, to hand out money. Is to send money over there. And I am very compassionate over their suffering. It tears me apart. But it won't do any good for us if they'll start come here and start knocking on our doors. It won't do good for our home. Yes, and it won't do good for our Christian faith. But money will do them good. Anyways, these were my thoughts. I'd be very happy to hear your comments, but only if they are organized and polite. Thanks.
I, Angelina Jolie, Pete. A goodwill ambassador for the UN. Thank you for coming. We're gathered here today to talk about millions of desperate families. Families so cut off from civilization they don't even know a day like this exists. And there are thousands of them. I'm standing here today to tell you that they are not just numbers. They are not just data. They're not even just refugees. They are mothers, fathers, daughters and sons. They are farmers, doctors, engineers. Each and every one of them unique. Each and every one of them an individual. And each and every one of them has a remarkable story in the face of loss. They are the most impressive people I have known, and at the same time, the most vulnerable. Stripped of home and country, refugees are buffeted from every ill wind that blows across this planet. I remember meeting a woman in Afghanistan in an abandoned camp in Pakistan. She was pregnant. She couldn't travel with all the others because she was too far out in her pregnancy. She was left in the refugee camp with her 2 children by themselves. She offered me a cup of tea. I didn't feel it was necessary, but the Afghans have pride and they are known for their hospitality. We walked into a dirty small tent. She dusted off 2 mattresses. They used to eat, sleep, and also pray. We sat and talked, and she turned out to be the loveliest woman I have met in a long while. The tea she gave me was the last one she had, but she insisted I drink and enjoy it. Apparently, those who have the least will always give you the most. Before I left, the woman pointed at the child. He had a dusty face and blue eyes, just like the sky. The most beautiful eyes I have ever seen. She pointed at him and said he was always asking for more food, and it breaks her heart to tell him there's nothing. She asked if we could take him with us so we could eat. Each and every mother sitting here today knows how desperate she must have felt. I came back to that region 3 times ever since and looked for her. I never found her. I remember in Tanzania, I met a kid. He was maybe 15 years old. He was shot in his back and was left paralyzed. He crawled forward and shook my hand. He had big eyes and a smile so pretty it filled the whole tent with light. Despite everything that had happened to him, he was full of love and laughter. I tried to understand why they didn't take him to a hospital or at least give him a wheelchair. They told me all his family got killed and there was no one left to take care of him. He didn't receive asylum in any other country. The entire camp is full of war victims, full of refugees. I saw children full of hunger and fear, mothers crying, fathers wounded. I couldn't sleep all night. Later on, I met a 9-year-old that saw all her family die in front of her eyes. She grabbed her baby brother and they ran together into the jungle where they survived by themselves for 2 weeks, eating only bananas. When I met her, she didn't speak. She She just rocked back and forth. I tried to tell her how brave she was, but she just stared in the air. Didn't look at me. That little girl had strength and courage I will never have. On that trip, and many more to come, I came to realize that they are not only the most vulnerable people on earth, but also the strongest and the most resilient. As an American, I know how much diversity can make us stronger. We are a country that was built on immigrants and refugees. I believe it is our job to show the world that refugees are not a burden. They are survivors. They overcome. And that is why I urge you to look beyond the numbers and see the individual, the human being. For the past 9 years, I've been doing many trips to the refugee camps. I do it in order to raise awareness for the burden cause. But actually, I do it mainly for myself. The refugees I have met changed my life profoundly. The 9-year-old girl showed me what courage is. The pregnant woman taught me about motherhood. And the little kid that got shot and was left paralyzed showed me the value of a soul that cannot be broken. So today, on World Refugee Day, I thank them. I thank them for letting me get inside their lives. And also, I thank you for coming. Thank you.
What do you do when you become a refugee? You start walking, and at some point, men in uniform will start to demand to see your papers. What, no papers? Why don't you have them? Did you grab your child's hand instead of your ID? Or maybe you remember to pack money and food, but not your passport. Doesn't matter. Stop the vehicle, stand here and wait. Now, papers or no papers, your life as a refugee has started at this moment on foot.
Hi, Alison. Hi, how are you? I'm fine, thanks.
No, you're not.
I'm not?
You're not.
No?
Let's start from the beginning. Let's be honest. How's life in Germany these days?
I actually moved back from Germany to the US.
Oh. Okay. Then you're fine.
Yes, I'm fine.
My apologies. Well, tell me what happened.
Okay. What happened was bad. I saw the change and it was bad. Look, I was living in Hamburg, and beneath my house there was an ambulance station, so I got used to hearing them. But for the past month, I got to hear them 8 times a night.
Whoa.
Yes, well, it's okay. I got used to seeing women that are Turkish in the neighborhood wearing hijabs, but ever since the last wave, more and more women are suddenly wearing burqa. As someone who worked really hard to get a job and to be treated as an equal, I had a very hard time to accept that change. I enjoyed living in Germany and I wasn't planning on returning, but I just couldn't do it anymore.
Look, I'm interested at your experience in Germany. Did you as a white woman, I don't know if you're white or not, but as a white woman, have you ever felt any harassment or discomfort?
No.
frightened?
Well, sometimes I used to see groups of 4 or 5 of them standing in the middle of the street. That sure made you feel uncomfortable. You know, in Leipzig, they put a group of refugees in one of the gymnasiums and told the parents not to bring the girls in skirts so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. I have 2 daughters back home and I didn't want to change their lives like this.
They're going backwards instead of forwards. That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous, it's scary. In Kelm, on New Year's Eve, they blamed the refugees on several sexual harassments. Even then, they told women how to dress differently in Europe. Do you know, I read that sometimes they're being declared innocent when it's totally obvious that they are guilty.
That's because the government is afraid to show how much those refugees are dangerous. So the police is keeping the numbers low. You see, we live in this world of magical thinking where we think that if we change the numbers, the statistics, we will change the reality. You see, if I will move to Japan, I will not ask the Japanese to learn English and change their costumes. I will be polite. I will learn Japanese.
Well, then look, here in New York City, you have Chinatown, where you will see only Chinese people eating Chinese food, speaking Chinese. It feels like you're in China. You go to Little Italy, you find only Italians. Well, they don't pose a threat. They just want to feed you pasta and pizza. But the woman that wears the burqa, she wants to change the way they treat women in Europe. I saw it in videos of Bill Warner. Do you know who that is?
Sure. You see, that's the difference between culture and intellectual rape. You see, culture doesn't make the streets unsafe. The culture doesn't make crime rate go up.
That's right.
And also, there's this IQ thing. You see, if you're coming from one of those African countries, you will not learn English and become a part of the American society. And even if you will, what will you do? You will be a waiter, a janitor. Come on. Okay. There will always be people saying we used to be just like them. We are also a nation of immigrants. You see, the Chinese, the first generation, maybe got stuck in Chinatown making dim sum. But the second generation, they learned English and became a part of the American society.
Well, that's how it is when you have motivation.
That's how it is when you are smart. You see, the ones that are coming now, they are the stupid ones, the ones who missed the boat, so they will come here and they will scream racism. Racism. You see, they have no respect to the law. They only respect their Muslims' customs. You see, they have no respect, zero respect to our Western law. You can put a lion and a sheep in one bed, but only one of them will wake up in the morning.
And I know who that will be. All right, we just wait and see.
We will not wait and we will not see. Do you know that black people in America, they resist and arrest 9 times more than white people? 9. And then they are shocked when the police is shooting. See, if you were smart, if you had some IQ, you would have realized that nothing good can come out of resisting an arrest.
Well, when I think about it, most of them are men. Maybe they can bring their women with them and then there wouldn't be any rape. But
if they will bring their women with them, they will have more and more children. And who will pay for this?
us.
And it's not like they're going to learn English, right? They don't even know how to read and write their own language. So they will come here and they will bring their women and they will have so many children until the country will go so poor because there won't be enough resources for the rest of us.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Every immigrant that comes into Europe is on the expense of an unborn German child. Did you know that the average number of children here in Germany is 1.5 per family, while for those refugees it's somewhere between 3 to 4. You see, it won't be so long till Germany as we know it would cease to exist.
They tried to fool us, but I didn't buy it, and that's why I came back to the US.
That's because you are talking better with your legs than with your mouth.
I'm just trying to be optimistic.
There is no reason to be optimistic.
You're right, I'm not optimistic.
It's all about numbers, statistics. You see, they are getting stronger when we are getting weaker. They are driven, they have motivation, while we only wake up in the morning thinking, how can I make my day nicer? Nicer, that's all we care about.
Well, that's really sad what you're saying, Luke.
Look, I don't want to put feminine labels on you, yes, but I'm talking numbers, statistics, and you're going through an emotional breakdown.
Do you remember the little kid that drowned in the shores of Turkey?
Sure. Even then, the whole world called us racist and rugged we grew. We opened the gates, we even rolled up a red carpet.
I don't really know what to do about it.
They destroyed Europe, they deserve nothing.
You're right. You're so right.
I am so happy we had this conversation. Have a beautiful day, Alison.
You too. Angela Merkel is ugly, right? Almost as ugly as Hillary Clinton. Hey, if you ever want to stop rape and sexual harassment, just show men pictures of Hillary Clinton and Angela Merkel. That'll turn anybody off. Even those Muslim refugees.
They're not real refugees, so fuck them. Look at them over there in Africa. Like sitting in them duffels with flies sticking to them. They carry the bag with their own shit on their back. But the ones that came to our country, they look like they just got out of the gym. Hardly any women, right? Because they're mostly men and then children who were supposed to fight in the war over there. And then they show up here with their cell phones. They're not real refugees. It's like some of them are complaining because they are cold and they don't like the food that we give them. So they leave the countries that took them and go look for other spoiled brats.
But Angela Merkel, as ugly as she is, says, I'll open the gates and I'll let some refugees in so they can rape you. And then after they're done raping you, I'll let some more refugees in and they also can rape you. And then after everyone is done raping you, let's give them a job. Yes, we will change the country's laws so they can compete for your jobs. Your jobs!
Is that baby on that beach? He was washed up between the rocks, but they moved his body to the shoreline because it photographs better. He said those father, mother, and child were safe where they were, but they chose to move somewhere else. No, the father wanted to move because he wanted dental work done. So he took his wife and kids, put them on that fucking rubber boat, and then his kid died and drowned. So fuck him. And then everybody cries, the poor kid. Yes, poor kid. So it's father's problem from putting him on that rubber boat. Wait, don't we have kids here? Don't they have a hard time? Stop bringing that shit over here and start thinking about the children in our country. Because here we drink alcohol. Here we sing Christmas carols. Here we eat pork. And now those fuckers are in our school and we cannot bring our children pork anymore. Our children are starving.
Why the fuck do they come to Europe? Why don't they go to one of their Muslim countries? It's fucked up. They come to Europe. European companies give them jobs, and so they keep coming. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. It's happening also here. Angela Merkel says it's not fair. I opened the gates, I let you get in and rape us, I gave you jobs. Next thing on the list, kill some of you fuckers just because you said something about their profit.
I cannot get inside a bank with a helmet on, but with a burqa, sure. Their women wear that fucking shit because their men makes them. And that's how they tame them. And at the same time, look at our women, fuckers.
Listen to what Angela Merkel has to say. Oh, and make sure your woman dresses right so that, God forbid, she doesn't get raped in the middle of the street. And then, in the media, they will defend them and not her. They will say she brought it on herself. She walked with a skirt in the middle of the street. Something is seriously fucked up with those people. Angela Merkel and all those lefties are supporting Muslims, extremists. They want you dead. They want you dead. Leaders, they're leading us to disaster.
What do you do when you become a refugee? You take one step and so it begins. You leave your old life and go into this new one. You crawl under a barbed wire into vulnerability, dependency, transparency. You're a refugee.